Racing, there's nothing like it, man. It's an adrenaline rush. It's a feeling that relief. You can be stressed out all day, go to the track, relieve a bunch of stress, just banging gears, hearing the motor rev. It's just, there's nothing like it, man.
I'm racing because it's my dream to be a professional race car driver, and I was just born with a car spirit.
The feeling I get when I'm around the people that enjoy this is what brings me back.
There's nothing like being at the front of a big pack, going into turn one.
I really like the variety of tracks. I think that's the thing that I like the most about Colorado Karting Tour, and also the variety of classes we can race and just the competitiveness.
Whether you're a mechanic for your child or a racer yourself, you guys are what drive this. And so when we get to see people have success or suffer through failure but come back better, that means a lot.
I love racing so much just because it's just so competitive and you get such an adrenaline rush from racing with others.
So what draws me to racing is however your life is going, whatever problems you're having, work, relationships. When you're at the track, it demands your focus. In a healthy competition, there's no other sport that I've participated in that demands that amount of focus where you're free to just drive.
We have 5 tracks. A lot of places have one track and they just run it forwards or backwards, whereas we go all over the place. So it's like a little F1 season. Not everywhere has that.
Everyone has a great 2019 season. Stay safe and let's go racing.
Well said.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Colorado Karting Tour 2020 Kick the Rust Off Showdown here in sunny Southern California, virtually, of course, Laguna Seca. I'm Tyler Newitt, alongside Alex Skinner. We're going to be bringing you the commentary tonight for Apex Racing TV, and we've got our friend Marco Barbanera running the cameras for us tonight. We've got, I think, a very fun night in store. We're going to have the USF 2000 cars on track here at Laguna Seca for 2 races, a 15-minute race and a 30-minute race. And I think we're going to see some excellent racing here. What do you think, Alex?
I mean, you've got USF 2000s and you've got Laguna Seca. I mean, you know, it's a match made in heaven. Two cars that are extremely fun to race in and that are extremely fun, you know, just to, you know, run around the track in general. And then you've got a track that is so fun to drive. Like Laguna Seca, honestly, personally, one of my favorites, especially in North America. And it is just, it's one of those tracks that sets up good racing.
I don't think I know many people who wouldn't put Laguna Seca as one of their favorite tracks. Certainly if you're limiting it to America, it's just one of the you know, classic circuits. You've got the Andretti hairpin in turn 1, always a tricky double apex at the start, and then the ever-present looming danger of the corkscrew, which these drivers will have to work their way through several times tonight. We're excited to bring you this presentation from the Colorado Karting Tour. I always like when we can bring the real-world racing and the virtual world of racing a little bit closer together. So we've got several drivers here tonight who are all either a part of the Colorado Karting Tour or friends and family of Colorado Karting Tour competitors, past and present. So these are all people who have some experience on a racetrack in the real world, and whether or not they have experience on the racetrack in the virtual world, they're going to get some experience tonight. So qualifying is just wrapping up right now. So far, we're seeing Kenny Schmid sitting on the provisional pole position, just ahead of Jim McKendry. And Rob Hubreg. Oh, we discussed how to pronounce this, and I'm sorry, Rob.
We're going to have fun trying to pronounce this, aren't we?
I have to apologize, Rob, because your name is a little bit unfamiliar to me. I'm going to give it my best shot. We're going to go with Rob Hubregsi. Hubregsi? Is that what we said? I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Hubregsi. All right. We'll give it our best shot, Rob.
Please
if you have any,
if we're wrong.
If anyone knows how to pronounce Rob's name better than that, please let us know in the comments on the YouTube video, and we'll do our best to right that wrong. He's currently lining up third with a lap of a 1:23.585. George Sparks currently slotted in fourth with Roman Bykov rounding out the top 5, and it looks like we are going to get ready to start our heat race. In just a moment, we have the drivers gridding up here. So now we have a full rundown of the qualifying order. As I mentioned, Kenny Schmid ahead of Jim McKendry, Rob Hubregsi, George Sparks in fourth. Roman Bykov will start fifth. Alfonso Cortez lines up sixth ahead of Tyler Green in seventh. Daniel Lopez will line up eighth in front of Cadence Presley, who lines up on the inside of row 5. Jeremy Davis alongside Dustin Wayman in 11th and Elizabeth Holubar in 12th place. And John Schneebly rounds out the field in 13th. He did not set a qualifying time.
No, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do from the back. But of course, the driver's just sat behind the Porsche safety car. I think they're going to get fed up looking at the back of that thing by the time we get going green. Because
it's
again,
a long pace lap here at Laguna Seca. Yeah, one of the older tracks on iRacing. For those of you perhaps not familiar with the service, they've started recently to start pace laps a little bit closer to the start-finish line, but some of the older tracks, they have to do a full lap of the circuit. So we'll have plenty of time to look through the roster of drivers tonight. Just wanted to give you a couple messages from the Colorado Karting Tour before we get started here. The Colorado Karting Tour iRacing League Board would like to thank you for watching this broadcast. We're looking forward to a great season of racing. The series is currently free to race for CKT members in order to keep the race entry free while providing the fantastic hosted sessions, awards, and broadcasts. We are looking for sponsors. If you would like to sponsor CKT iRacing League, please reach out at coloradokartingtour.com/contact for full details. In addition, the Colorado Karting Tour is looking for race day track workers. Positions are currently open are corner, timing and scoring, and flag workers. Workers will be paid for their time and travel to each event. Please contact CKT for more details. Once again, the contact information there is coloradokartingtour.com/contact.
I think you nailed that, my good man.
Thank you, thank you. Happy to be working with our friends here at Colorado Karting Tour. I think they're going to have a lot of fun with this league. The USF 2000, as Alex rightly mentioned, is just an absolutely fantastic car, a great addition to the iRacing service. As the field gets rolling here behind the pace car, as it were, we see the leaders warming up their tires. It's obviously here a rolling start, so hopefully that'll keep the field a bit spread out into turn one. We don't want too much chaos on the first lap, but in a 15-minute race, I think people are going to be scrapping for positions as quickly as they can.
I've seen enough Formula 3 around here in C-Class to know how badly it goes on a standing start, so I think we can all be thanking ourselves that it is a rolling start here today. And of course, even still, rolling starts, even in cards like these, can still be hilariously entertaining going towards turn one, especially as you make your way down, and some people may snag a break into the first corner.
It's the ever-present difficulty of a track without a straight. Of course, you know, Laguna Seca has some straightaways, but the main and longest straightaway that leads to the start-finish line is not really straight at all, which will certainly lead to some difficulties. Drivers will have to have some good awareness of the cars around them and keep their line in check as the leader, Kenny Schmid, is rounding the last corner, and he will control the field as we head to the green flag. The field gets sorted up behind him, and Schmid is off. He gets a clear jump over McKendry in second place, and they head off down into that treacherous turn one we were mentioning. Mostly single file up front, but they fan out into the braking zone there.
3 wide, the mid-pack is already a spin, and already a couple of retirements, already big contact, wheels going off, and of course we do have fast repairs here in the CKT, in the Colorado Karting Tour, so it will mean that those guys can get themselves back to the pit lane from a tow and get themselves back in the race as fast as possible. On board with McKendry right now, the number 7, looking towards the leader, Schmid. Again, those two got away nice and cleanly, avoided that bit of contact through turn 1, of which was all self-inflicted. They make their way up the hill, through the kink, and up towards the corkscrew. Again, one of those tricky corners. You get it slightly wrong, you're either on that curb breaking the suspension, or you're off the track and having a nice little time of, well, you know, building some sandcastles, from what I remember, at least in VRS GT. Meanwhile, a bit further back, we're looking at Schneebel having a little fight with Wayman. This is coming down into the corkscrew.
I think we're looking at looking here at some of the drivers caught up in that just a bit of an unfortunate incident in turn 1. It looked like George Sparks just had a little bit of a wiggle on under braking. You got to remember that these tires are cold heading into turn 1. It's very easy just to have a little bit of a lockup and lose the car. And unfortunately, some of the drivers behind were innocent bystanders. It did look like Sparks kind of got the worst of it as far as damage goes, but we have a couple drivers who have either towed back to pit lane or entered the pit lane for some damage repairs. As you mentioned, the fast repairs should be on here. So the cars cycling through for their first time laps. We're seeing a flurry of lap times on the leaderboard up there. Positions shifting just a little bit as drivers pass the cars who have pulled into pit lane. And we see, a little mistake there for Lopez as that was Cortez losing 5th place to Lopez. And we have a battle here for second. That's McKendry ahead of Rexy. As they head up that very difficult turn that leads onto the straight and down into the braking zone for the corkscrew. Not close enough to make a move here, but if he keeps tucked in behind, he's going to have a chance potentially in the last corner. He seems to just have a little bit of pace on McKendry in second at the moment.
He does indeed. Meanwhile, The corkscrew has already claimed a couple of victims, it seems. That is Lopez, and I believe that was Cortez that got caught up in that. We're going to have a quick replay of what happened here. So looking at Cortez on to the back of Wayman. Why do I have a feeling he might have snagged a brake going in? Yeah, he's locked up a bit too late on the brakes, and that looked like rear suspension damage, but I think that might have just been slight netcode on our end with the damage. That is a thing that is noticeable in iRacing, but nothing too major.
It is a shame.
It looked like he kept going on.
Yeah, it can sometimes show damage that hasn't updated on the server side, but is showing on our client end, which will eventually update, and we'll see if they continue on. So that's Presley, who was involved in that lap 1 incident in that beautiful McLaren livery. He's exiting the pits now. We jump back to Jim McKendry. He is still being hunted down by Rob Hubrexy, and they approach the scene of the previous laps incident. No trouble there for either of those two. They make their way down past the corkscrew. We now jump to Dustin Wayman, who's in a bit of a sandwich here. He's got Alfonso Cortez in front of him and Daniel Lopez, as Cortez runs a little bit wide there. Very easily done. You can either catch a little bit of inside curb or just carry a little bit too much speed, and it's unbelievable how narrow this track really is. You know, it looks like any normal strip of asphalt, but when you're driving at speed, it just feels like you're driving through, you know, a single lane road, as it were. There's so little margin for error around here, and of course, if you run wide, there's just a little bit of dust there and not much in the way of grip.
Indeed, and we did see a little move trying to be done there, and that was actually a little bit of a brave move going into the corkscrew, trying to get on the inside of the second half, trying to basically Zanardi it down the inside. Meanwhile, Hubrexy having a look, coming towards the outside of McKendry. He's ahead under the braking zone. McKendry's just going to back off and let him go. Sees that he's quicker, sees that he's a bit faster now, just going to let him go. Again, we're 5 minutes in out of the 15. And that looks like Lopez to the inside of Wayman is going to make that move done. He tried to get it done. Meanwhile, Cortez very, very loose off the exit. There's contact. And that is suspension damage for Cortez. Oh, and he gets collected by Wayman. Oh, dear.
That's unfortunate. That's a tough situation for all of the drivers involved. It looked like Cortez ran just a little bit wide, and the problem is he's trying to gather himself. The oncoming cars just don't really have anywhere to go. As we mentioned, this track is unbelievably narrow, and they're going through a rather tight section, so there's really only one line and not much time for corrective action. So just an unfortunate situation, as we see Wayman, who attempted to continue on, is I don't think he's going to be able to drive that car back to pit lane. He'll need to take a tow. This is Kenny Schmid, who is opening up that gap at the front. He's now up to a 2-second lead over Hubrexy, who jumped McKendry we saw on the previous lap. He is just cruising right now. He's stretching that gap. Obviously, with the two cars battling behind him, it's going to be a little bit easier to open up a bit of a gap. As we see, oh, that's Wayman, who I've just seen on our timing, has towed to the pit lane.
Yep, couldn't get that car back without that front wing. Managed to just not, understeer off. Meanwhile, the fight for 7th is now going on. This is Cortez, Schneebel, and Green. Green actually making up places after, I think, getting collected in that turn 1 lap 1 incident. And Schneebel trying to...
Oh, just a little spin there for the 5 car. That's Schneebly, I believe it's how we're going to pronounce it, or how I'm going to pronounce it. Once again, apologies to anyone here if I get your names wrong, and feel free to comment and correct me if I've done so. But just a harmless little spin in turn 1. This track can be so slippery.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need to hide the children as well. I'm seeing some USF 2000 not safe for work imagery on our screens as the left-hand side pod of the number 91 car of Alfonso Cortez has managed to shred the side pod covering. And you can just see bare radiator inside of that car. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see that as well, actually.
I'm actually not showing any damage on that. We're looking at Cortez here.
I'm going to have to get you a screenshot.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah,
this is amazing.
Thank you for the beautiful slow-mo shot, Marco, working the cameras today. That is a beautifully designed piece of mechanical work in the underside of a USF 2000 underpod, but generally not supposed to be seen by the viewing public, so he should be all right to continue. I don't think that's going to cause him too much trouble, as this race is quickly winding to its halfway point here. We're already 8 minutes down in our 15-minute race. This is a time-limited race, so once the leader takes what iRacing determines is going to be his last lap, where the time will run out over the course of the lap he's on, the race will finish at that point. Did want to mention that this is the first in a series of races the Colorado Karting Tour are putting on iRacing. This one, though, is not for points, which is perhaps why we're seeing some adventurous driving from our drivers tonight. No need to play it safe. You're not playing for points. You're just playing for glory. As we see, Davis, I believe, with a lockup, and that will bring Lopez into competition with him, and he makes the decision to let Lopez by, and I think that's the spot.
Yeah, it's a very difficult place to regain speed and momentum if you do get, slightly wide through the first part of the corkscrew. Again, you drop down, you're so tight to the inside. If you dare put the power down, the rear end is going to come out from underneath you, and you're going to end up, well, maybe in the inside barrier very, very quickly. Meanwhile, Cortez is showing us out on our screens, so shame to see that Cortez has decided to retire that car with not that much left in the race.
Yeah, perhaps we'll have to take a look, but perhaps a connection issue there, because I didn't see any, what looked like any terminal damage on that car, so...
I am hearing connection issues from our amazing direct.
That is a shame. Always the tough part about virtual racing is you can have some technical difficulties, but of course we don't have some of the mechanical failures you might find on a real car, and it's always a shame, but similar in the way that luck might determine the outcome of a race in real life, it can bite you here as well, as we ride on board with Brexy, who has not been able to shake McKendry. This is our closest battle on the track right now, these two, as Schmid sets the quickest lap of the race so far. These two have some unfinished business here as they dive down into turn one. Whoa! Ooh. A big lockup from McKendry there. He is clearly pushing. I think he thinks he might have something on the number 67 car here, but you're not going to make friends of your tires by smoking them that aggressively into turn one at Laguna Seca, I don't think.
You really aren't. Your car's going to hate your car's going to hate you after a while of doing this. I can tell you that one for a certainty. Meanwhile, slightly wider line for Webrexy. I need to stop stumbling. For Webrexy coming out in towards the climb up towards the corkscrew, and it's still keeping him ahead of McKendry. But McKendry is seeing where, Rob is slower and just going, okay, maybe I can close up here. But Rob, the 67 car, is seeming to pull away slightly for now. So we'll see if he can hold that on for the final 4 minutes of this race. We're going to have a look at Presley in number one, in that McLaren livery car.
And I've just seen a comment in the chat, Alex. Someone has mentioned that they think Cadence Presley is the only non-adult in this race. He is 10 years old. So
10 years old.
Cadence Presley is showing some adults how it's done here, cruising around in 9th, and I think he would have been doing pretty well anyway if he hadn't been caught up in that issue on lap 1. So good on you, Cadence. I know that I would not be this quick on iRacing at 10 years old, so putting on a show for the viewing audience at home here, Cadence Presley, as we jump back to this battle between Brexy and McKendry. McKendry has been able to kind of shrink that gap back up, but not really been able to make a move. We saw the lockup in turn 1 on the lap before. They are closing in on some lap traffic, but hopefully they won't make it too difficult. I think everyone's been pretty respectful out here tonight, and I imagine that will continue.
Yeah, it's always great when you got guys that are pretty respectful with blue flags. Again, it's one thing that you don't always see. Meanwhile, we're going to ride on board with the 97 of Tyler Green as he makes his way up across the start-finish stripe and down, up the hill and now down the hill into turn 1. Meanwhile, someone's managed to hit one of the cones that separate the track from the pit exit. I saw that cone just lying there. It's one of those beautiful little things. I remember back in the previous days, the previous patches, where the front wing actually could have a cone stuck inside of it. Meanwhile, that looks like McKendry's made a mistake because
He has lost quite a bit of time. Yeah, now that you mention it, he's now about a second and a half behind Quebrexy as they close into what should, I believe, be the penultimate lap of this race with just about 3 minutes to go. It might be 3 more. We'll find out a little bit later on. But Quebrexy seems to be opening the gap up just a little bit over McKendry. And in fairness to Quebrexy, he is maintaining the gap to Schmid pretty closely. Schmid at one point, I think, had it out to 3 seconds, but Quebrexy has brought that back in a little bit closer. So definitely some competitive drivers here, putting in some pretty competitive lap times. I think there's obviously a variety of skill levels through the field. So I'm sure some people won't be as well versed in sim racing as perhaps they are in real world racing. And it's not an easy transition, Alex. There's a lot of feedback that you get from real world cars and karts that just isn't present in sim racing. So some people take a little bit longer to transition than others, just depending on where they draw most of their feedback from. I think the guys who get a lot from the steering wheel tend to adapt the best to sim racing, as Kenny Schmid worked his way past the lap car there. We're getting the white flag. We're hearing from our camera director, Marco Barbanera. With a minute to go, that makes sense. So it looks like Schmid should be able to cruise to victory here in the heat race. But it doesn't look like the battle for second is over. McKendry's been able to close in just a little bit on Quebrexy. Perhaps Quebrexy just, well, I was going to say he's just struggling a bit, but he's also closed the gap to the leader. So everything tightening up here on the white flag lap.
Yeah, it seems, I think Schmid has maybe just brought that pace down, started just to slow up a little bit, cruise home, just, bit of mechanical sympathy, maybe just bring that car back in one piece, not push it too much, not risk anything, to potentially lose it so close to the end. And it's just allowing Quebrexy and allowing McKendry just to close up slightly. Meanwhile, that gap between the two second and third place cars is down to a singular second as they make their way up towards the corkscrew. And again, not many more places for McKendry to get by in the case that Quebrexy does make a mistake. But really, the only place to make a mistake has just been passed. And of course, we look back up the front because it has been a lights to flag victory, hasn't it?
Yeah, Kenny Schmid pretty much untouchable here. Pace-wise, he had some competition, but the battle for second, I think, gave him just the gap he needed to cruise to victory here in race number 1 tonight for the Colorado Karting Tour. Quebrexy will cross the line in second. McKendry unable to close the gap, will cross the line in third. We ride now with Bykov, who is headed towards the final corner and looks like he should be on his way to a 4th place finish here in race number 1.
Yeah, very, very lonely race number 1 for Bykov in the 13 Cup. I mean, having a bit of a tour of the dirt. 5th place is going to be Lopez after a pretty eventful race for the for him. It was a rather interesting set of events. Having some contact in the corkscrew, nearly getting involved in that turn 1 calamity. It's going to be Davis in 6th, Green in 7th as they come across the line. Schneebel will be in 8th, Presley 9th, Wayman 10th, and Sparks 11th, with 2 retirees of Holibar and Cortez.
Yeah, all in all, an eventful but fairly respectful and fairly clean race. I think all of the incidents we saw were the no-fault sort of incidents, the kind of wrecks that just sort of happen when somebody makes a mistake and people have nowhere to go. I didn't really see any sort of disrespectful racing as, whoa, there's a move from Sparks. I guess that is for position on Dustin Wayman. Wasn't able to get it done. Wasn't quite able to get it done in that final corner. That's really one of the few places on this track you could make a pass, but he was as brave as he could be on the brakes, but it wasn't quite enough there. Wayman crosses the line in 10th position, and Sparks in 11th, recovering from his lap 1, turn 1 spin. As Alex already ran you through, here are the results from race 1. It's Kenny Schmid leading lights to flag. Rob Quebrexy in 2nd place, 2.5 seconds behind. Jim McKendry in 3rd. Roman Bykov in 4th. Daniel Lopez rounds out the top 5. Jeremy Davis, Tyler Green, John Schneebly, Cadence Presley, Dustin Wayman are your top 10. And George Sparks, Elizabeth Holibar, and Alfonso Cortez all had a little bit of trouble, but they've got another chance in our 30-minute race number 2 coming up in just a little bit. I believe, wasn't sure if we were going to have driver interviews after this race or not. I don't see anyone looking for it. Not yet? All right. No driver interviews just yet.
We have time to chill. Yeah, 5-minute warm-up session before we go into the next race, into the feature event here, which will be double the length. There'll be 30 minutes here.
And it looks like the grid for race number 2 is going to be the finishing order for race number 3. So that run through I just gave you, Kenny Schmid is going to be lining up in position number 1, with Hubrexy and McKendry resuming their battle in race number 2, starting in 2nd and 3rd position. We get a quick look at the weather here.
I almost had a heart attack seeing it was 69
oh goodness,
degrees.
yeah, I don't know that is the correct temperature there.
I was gonna say, geez, see that poor engines.
Even in Fahrenheit, that's a little hot. Oh, that's because we're looking at wind direction. Oh goodness.
Well, no, you're looking at the wind direction. I'm looking at the. I'm looking at the air temp.
69 degrees Fahrenheit is a perfectly reasonable temperature and a beautiful evening.
You're looking at the 272 degrees.
I saw 300 degrees as the wind direction. That's my mistake, folks. Please
I was gonna
forgive
say,
me for that one.
God, could you imagine trying to race in those temperatures? I think the engines would have blown up at that point, would have seized up because the water would have boiled at that point.
Yeah. My mistake, folks. Unless that was the temperature in Kelvin, which I don't believe it is.
I doubt that would be in Kelvin.
While we are in our warm-up session here between races, we're just going to take a look at a few of the drivers who are on track. We've got Dustin Wayman. He finished 10th after some issues in race number 1, but for race number 2.
Driving in that Benetton liveried car, which, as you saw in race 1, actually the little director's note came up. Marco has a bit of a love with that livery, from what we can tell, as Wayman goes for a bit of a rotation.
Let's be. That is just one of those classic liveries that just seems to work in every way. As Wayman has himself a little bit of a spin. No harm, no foul, of course, in warm-up. Just warming up those tires, I suppose, a little too quickly for Wayman's liking, I think.
I'd say an unconventional way to warm up the tires as you go on the out lap. That should be an interesting way of warming your tires up in real life, wouldn't it? Just gonna warm my tires up. Oh wait, the rear end's gone. Well, at least the rear tires are warm.
We do have some bio information. Some of the drivers have been kind enough to give us a little bit of information about themselves. So just wanted to highlight Dustin Wayman, who we saw on screen there. He is the 2020 SCCA Mid-States champion and the 2020 SCCA Colorado champion in Formula V. So clearly Dustin is capable of racing some open wheelers in the real world and in the virtual world as well. So congrats to Dustin, on those championships.
Yeah, congrats indeed. And apparently he's also a great cook. Must taste the local cuisine of the Wayman family at some stage, hopefully in the future. Meanwhile, we're coming towards the end of warm-up, so
doesn't seem to be too many takers on track here, as we're looking at Dustin in the pit lane still. Just wanted to take a moment to remind you, Colorado Karting Tour iRacing League Board would like to thank you for watching this broadcast. We're looking forward to a great season of racing ahead of us. This series is currently free to race for CKT members. In order to keep the race entry free while providing fantastic hosted sessions, awards, and broadcasts, we are looking for sponsors. If you would like to sponsor CKT iRacing League, please reach out at coloradokartingtour.com/contact for full details. Colorado Karting Tour is also looking for race day track workers. Whoops, just lost. Sorry, just lost my message there. They are also looking for race day track workers. Positions currently open are corner timing and scoring, as well as flag workers. Workers will be paid for their time and travel to each event. Please contact CKT for more details. Contact information is on coloradokartingtour.com/contact, and we are gridding up for race number 2 here. Lineup is as they finished in race number 1 with Kenny Schmid on pole, Rob Brexey and Jim McKendry behind him, and they set off on the base lap.
They do indeed, and the rest of the grid will be Roman Bykov, followed by Daniel Lopez, Jeremy Davis, Tyler Green, John Schneebel, Cadence Presley, Dustin Wayman, George Sparks, Elizabeth Holibar, and Alfonso Cortez. That'll be your 13-car grid for the feature race here at the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca. Now, of course, it is a double-length race for the feature, so it is a 30-minute race here for the second and final race of the day. This will be a great, which hopefully will be extremely, hopefully will provide us the same action that we saw in the first race, and hopefully I'll be able to actually get the words out of my brain that I actually want to say instead of stuttering for the next half an hour.
In your defense, of course, Alex, it is pretty late, or early, depending on how you look at it, across the pond in the UK. I'm just here on the other side of the Rockies from Colorado, so it's a nice snowy evening here in Idaho for me, but we are getting set for race number 2. We're looking at Roman Bykov, who had himself a quiet 4th place finish in race number 1, hoping for perhaps a little more excitement in race number 2, or perhaps just to have another nice, quiet, good finish. Excitement isn't always good in iRacing, is it?
I mean, depends which split you're in, really. If you're in top split, yeah, go for it. If you're in bottom split, well, that usually spells disaster.
And there's Cadence Presley once again. We've just got some bio information in for Cadence as well. He's the 2019 Vice Champion Junior 1 Cadet in the Colorado Karting Tour. And he's a national kart competitor in the ROK Cup USA and Superkarts USA. So, once again, way more than I was doing at 10 years old.
Yeah,
so,
I was about to say.
Good on you there, Cadence.
A lot more than I was doing as well. Meanwhile, we are
Kenny Schmid is about to take the green flag here, and he is off already.
Yeah, getting that early jump as he will come across the line. The lights will go out, signifying that we are racing here for the feature race at Laguna Seca. Now, will we get a clean turn 1? That looks like McKendry going defensive. He is indeed. Meanwhile, that's going to be Huitberg going very wide. Indeed, there's contact between Lopez and I believe that was Davis. Hopefully the rear end of that car not damaged. It looks like it's okay. Meanwhile, Davis, I think that's him slowing to let everyone by. Yeah, Davis,
I'm wondering if he's got a little front wing damage there. It just looked a little bent up, and he was going a little slow through the dirt there. Fortunately, I think we had less cars involved in turn 1 carnage than in race number 1. And everyone is making their way up now through the corkscrew. I don't believe we have anybody who is on the sidelines yet.
Nope.
We've got a move into, whoa, just too much speed there from the 37 car. A little bit of contact in the wall. That's not going to end well for him.
Oh, I was going to say, looking here for the race, for the lead, because Schmid is now fighting with Bergsey as Schneebel made a mistake, or not Schneebel, McKendry and Schneebel actually went off as far as I could see. Saw one car off just before the corkscrew. Meanwhile, the 67 right on the back of the 14 car as they make their way onto the second lap of racing down towards turn 1. 3/10 separated them on that first lap in terms of lap time, which is very impressive indeed, actually. And I think the only car that's in the pit lane at the moment is green, which is a shame. But of course, he did have that very, very big off.
And an adventurous run through turn number 6, I believe it is.
Wayman that I saw off the track. I do apologize.
And Wayman losing some ground here into turn number 1 there behind Jeremy Davis and Alfonso Cortez. And another driver off. That's the 5 car. That is Schneebel.
Shame for him. He was running actually relatively, at the sharp end of the field. And seems that things are just going wrong for him here in the number 5 car. As Cortez goes around the outside.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he has damage. He does seem to be going.
Or he might have had a slow down
here.
penalty because he was going rather slowly. That could be a thing that has happened.
That is definitely something that's possible in iRacing. I can't think of anywhere at Laguna's Sake you might pick up a slowdown, but I'm sure it exists.
The inside of turn 1, the inside of turn 2. I mean, there's plenty of spots. I found most of them.
Fair
you fight.
Inside of the last corner, that's a good point there from
that's
Marco.
a very good point, actually.
Certainly could have been. We
too
focus
tight
now
on the entry there, and you will get one.
We focus now on Kenny Schmid, who does not have nearly as comfortable a lead as he had for most of race number 1. Rob Hubrexy, our race number 1 runner-up, is within a half a second of him, and he looks like he's closing in on him a little bit here.
Yeah, he's got traffic not too far up the road. That is green, so he's just come out of the pit lane. He's actually on, I believe, he's only 1 lap back. I thought he was on the lead lap for a moment. He might actually be still on the lead lap. He is, actually,
Yes.
but meanwhile... Schmid, again, not even half a second between him and Hubrexy. So, be interested to see as they come up through the kink. Both of them making it through nicely. No issue, no running wide, no getting too close to that curb. Now, it's going to be a case of who's more confident through the corkscrew.
It is such...
Hubrexy very, very close to having a rear end going through the corkscrew first before the front end did that.
Yes, we're right on board with Rob now. The braking zone for the corkscrew has got to be one of the trickiest braking zones in American racing because it's not you have to make it a straight braking zone, but to do so involves hitting curbs on the left and the right-hand side.
Whilst going over a crest.
Whilst going over a crest, while setting yourself up to dive down, I believe it's 6 stories or something ridiculous. It's not an easy... It's not an easy corner at any point in the corner, whether you're in the braking zone or driving your way through it, or even on the way out, because the road just kind of falls away from you, doesn't it? It's really difficult to get onto the power out of the corkscrew, and you need to set yourself up for that sweeping left-hander afterwards. So, a testament to the quality of competition that all these drivers have so far navigated the corkscrew pretty successfully.
Yeah, indeed. The fact that lead fight, even after 4 laps of racing, on our 4th lap of racing, is as close as it is. We're going to ride on board with Rob as he navigates the corkscrew on the left curb, sets the car up for the right, hits the brakes as soon as you hit the curb, get the car turned in, rotated through the corkscrew, and make sure you get on the power as early as possible, but not too early. You don't want to lose the rear end as you exit, because you'll find yourself on that right-hand wall very, very quickly.
That's a nice line by Rob. That's kind of exactly how you've got to take it. As we jump now to Cadence Presley and Jim McKendry. Jim had a bit of a rough start, maybe some issues somewhere along the way because he's now dropped back to 5th. But how about Cadence Presley up 5? Yeah, up 5 spots from where he started. Currently running in 4th place, and not too terribly far off 3rd place either. That's Roman Bykov, who finished and started this race in 4th position. So definitely some battles going on here. We'll see if Jim is able to work his way back through the field. Obviously, he started up in 3rd after his great battle with Rob Hubrexy in race number 1. But for the moment, he doesn't really seem to have too much in terms of pace over Cadence. Cadence just kind of running his race and minding his own business and minding the white lines. And for the time being, he is holding off Jim McKendry here. I think we might get a replay of what happened to Jim.
Yeah, we are indeed. As they're making their way out, this is coming towards the kink.
And it's just as we talked about. Yep, yeah. Just a little too excited on the gas pedal there, and you just lose it as
side by side into the
side. Perhaps a little bit of wheel-on-wheel contact there. Both able to continue, but briefly showing a little bit of damage there. That's, as we mentioned earlier in the race, just a product of the way that iRacing handles the damage model. Sometimes we see damage on our server side that isn't actually the case. So both drivers continuing on, but some close racing and exciting battling here between Jim McKendry and Cadence Presley.
Yeah, these two going extremely hard out, and you can see not even that far up the road, actually. I think in the same camera shot, you can see Bykov. Yeah, they are extremely close now. 1.1 seconds between them, so this is also now the fight for the podium. Meanwhile, McKendry seems to like taking a tighter line through turn 1 and 2. Seems to keep that car nice and stable. Wayman is in the pit lane now, so that's going to drop him outside of the top 10. Meanwhile, Cadence Presley getting very wide out of turn 3 from what I could see there, but he is really, really doing a great job, is the 10-year-old.
And he makes
have
a
look
move
to the
on
inside.
Bykov. What a
That is beautiful.
decisive maneuver there by Cadence Presley. Great, great overtaking maneuver on Roman Bykov there. There's not a lot of passes you can make around this track that you don't set up a few corners beforehand, and Cadence got a great run out of the turn 3 there to set up Roman into turn 4. Great work by Cadence Presley to move himself up into a podium position and up 6 spots from his starting position. That is quite the march forward. As Bykov gets it all wrong. So easily done. I think we've all, any of us who have driven Laguna Seca in Sim have done that at one point or another, because you have to carry the speed through there or else you lose time, but you just carry a little bit too much and you're off. It looks like Bykov didn't hit anything. He's able to keep going. Just a little bruised pride, but he holds on to 5th place, which is just a little ways off of Jim McKendry, who moves himself back up into 4th place. We're going to get a replay here, but I think we all saw what happened. Just a little bit wide.
Clipped the inside of the. He actually clipped the inside curb a bit too much there, and the car just unsettled itself enough for the rear end to kick out. So he corrected the car, and obviously in doing so, the car slides out wide onto the dust. And
it's an unforgiving track.
It is a very unforgiving track. It's actually
we jump to a battle. Sorry.
Carry on.
We jumped to a battle between Jeremy Davis and Anthony Cortez. Just wanted to highlight what we're seeing on screen here. Jeremy is in 8th place at the moment, chasing down Cortez in 7th. He's been a little bit quicker, but not quite able to get the move done just yet. Cortez also a big mover in the race so far. He and Cadence Presley are both up 6 spots from where we started. Cortez didn't finish race number 1, so he started right at the back. But he currently runs in P7 and seems to have a fair bit of pace going on right now.
Yeah, he does indeed. Meanwhile, I heard some sounds that didn't sound too helpful, and that was the sound I heard. I thought I heard a car off at the kink, and it was Wayman, a big off. It sounded very big from what I could hear, and meanwhile, back to that fight for 7th. 7/10 separates the two as they make their way through the penultimate turn. At least this time, Cortez does have the right-hand side pod, actually, on the car, instead of showing the internals. I mean, it's great for cooling, not so great for the aerodynamic properties of the USF 2000 that these drivers are utilizing here today. And again, we're only 10 minutes through. We're only a third of the way through this race. Still plenty of laps to go, and still plenty of time for these positions to change.
Absolutely, and these drivers are, I think, aware of that, and perhaps just taking it a little bit easier than they might have. That's a dangerous maneuver there from Cadence Presley. It can certainly go wrong if you're not careful, but he holds on to it. He is still holding off Jim McKendry and doing a really stellar job of maintaining his position. I think McKendry might just have a little bit of pace in hand at the moment, but pace in hand doesn't do you much if you can't make the pass, and so far Jim hasn't quite been able to make a move stick on Cadence Presley.
No, indeed, as McKendry looks to the inside, Cadence Presley goes for a very late defensive maneuver. Perfectly legal, perfectly understandable, perfectly gentlemanly, as we would say in the GT racing business. But of course, this is open wheel racing, where it's completely ruthless, cutthroat racing. As they make their way towards turn 1, Presley has a little look, runs that tight line, and it gets him right onto the back of Presley. It's so close, is it, for McKendry? He's just trying to find every little way by, and he's just not finding the little bits that he needs to get past Presley. Sorry.
It's exactly what I love. Yeah, I was just gonna say, Alex, it's exactly what I love about the Andretti hairpin, because there are quite a few different lines as, Cadence Presley just slipped up a little, ran a little bit wide, and that's all Jim McKendry needed was an open door, and he slides right through and doesn't run wide through the kink, so he will likely hold on to this position. But the point I was going to make is I love the Andretti hairpin because there are so many different lines you can run. We saw Cadence run that ultra wide line, kind of the true double apex. But Cortez just a little bit too late on the braking. And that'll cost him that 7th position that he's been fighting with Jeremy Davis with there. We'll have to see if he can get it back. He's got plenty of time to do it. Just got to get those tires, shake the dirt off them.
Yep.
And get under control as
Henry's round. This is what we were talking about. You don't want to get the power on too early, or the rear end will just go away. And you were saying about Cortez. Well, I think that was him who we saw without a front wing coming out of the corkscrew just then as well, because he wasn't too far up the road, and I have a feeling that he's lost even more time. I'm not too sure though. It might have just been my end.
I'm showing Cortez about 1.5 seconds now behind Jeremy Davis, so a little bit more time. Yep, yeah.
That's a bit of similar looking car.
The mistake we saw by McKendry was exactly the same mistake that put him back in that spot in the first place, if I'm not mistaken. Said mistaken too many times there. That the thing with words start to lose their meaning when you say them too many times.
The mistake made a mistake.
The mistake made by Jim McKendry was another mistake of the same variety in the corkscrew. This time it's only set him back to 4th place, though he is now some 8 seconds back of Cadence Presley, who we're seeing on screen right now. He's got some time to make it up, and the pace he's had, he may be able to close that gap to Cadence Presley, but we saw Cadence putting up quite the fight earlier on in the race, and I'd imagine that he's not going to make it easy as time begins to wind down in this race, should Jim get back up there.
Yeah, indeed. And again, all that Cadence has really got to do is just run consistent laps, and he'll be in the top 5. There's no way that he'll drop out of the top 5 without a big mistake, I don't feel. It's a really, really great showing, especially from someone as young as Cadence Presley. Again, you hear of these whiz kids on iRacing and F1 games and stuff like that. They're, like 15 or 16 or maybe even 14 years old. But a 10-year-old, that's extremely impressive actually to see. And as we look back up, something else that's impressive to see is the gap that's formed between Schmid and Quibrexi, because that is now up to 2 seconds as Quibrexi actually gets caught behind traffic through the kink. The worst place to catch traffic around here, because you just can't get by them, even if they do get out of the way.
No, it's just impossible to go side by side through there. It's such a narrow corner. But Brexi's putting up quite the fight, because we saw Kenny Schmid really run away with race number 1, but it's pretty difficult to match the pace when someone's been that consistent as, Tyler Green doing a bit of rallycross. Not really what I think was in the plans for the evening, but no harm, no foul. He continues on. Probably gets a little bit of a slowdown.
This is the car that I saw without the front wing in front of the little McKendry incident earlier. That'll be Elizabeth Hollybar. So she's currently running with some more Formula Ford style downforce, I can imagine.
Yes, and I think we're going to get a chance here to see where it happened. Glad she's still circulating, though. She dropped out of race number 1, so good to see her continue on here. Just a rear brake.
So easily done.
Yeah, rear brake lock up into the final corner. Knocks that front wing off, but she may... I believe they still have a faster pair for this race, so she may want to hop in the pits.
Yeah, I believe so. She's keeping out of the way of all the guys coming through to lap her, though.
Certainly.
Which is always great to see. Always amazing to see, such, sportsmen like drivers in, especially of all ages. It's great to see.
Always good to see good sportsmanship here. We're jumped back on board with Cadence Presley. Jim McKendry's been cutting into his gap pretty quickly.
You can see him in the camera shot actually there.
I believe that's a lap car in between, but I think that was him further down the hill.
Yeah, that was him further down. There you go.
Yep, so, there he is, just flashing by in the back through the kink. But Cadence is, he's just kind of running his own race and doing a good job here. You know, he may not have quite the pace that McKendry's got, but he's able to, well, he's been able to hold on to third so far, and I think that says something.
Well, it does indeed. Again, you know, to finish, well, I'd say, you know, the old saying, to finish first you must finish. Well, to finish third, you've got to finish at least. You know,
Exactly.
it seems that all the carnage and the chaos sort of happened around Cadence instead of actually, you know, with him being involved. You know, everyone seems to just have their accident around him, and it's like he's parting the sea of cars. And meanwhile,
oh, no.
someone else who's parting
Bykov is off again. That's
at the exact
where
same
is
place
that?
as last time.
Oh no.
Oh, what's happened this time? Gets sliding through the corkscrew, makes his
He's
way out.
alright
Has
through
he
there.
done the exact same as last time? Clip that inside curb too much. No, he's just understeered
Just
wide
ran a
off
little-
from the
oh.
car.
It's like a mirror image of his first incident, so maybe Bykov just pushing a little bit too hard to try and close that gap in front, but he's back underway. Again, no damage there, so he continues on. We jump back to Cadence, and you can see Jim in that shot. I think you can start to hear the Jaws music playing, but as we all know in racing, catching is one thing and passing is another. And we are closing in on about 10 minutes to go in the race here.
Matt
So
Schneebel, I think, there.
yeah, that's not the
I could
first
hear
time
engines.
Schneebly's been. It's not the first time he's been off today, but still circulating, still holding on to a top 10 position as it stands at the moment, one lap down. Green's going to go by him there, but still a top 10 for Schneebly. Currently 11 cars still, 12 cars still running. We're seeing Holubar, who is pit to get that front wing repaired. That's a good decision, I think. Now she can set some more representative lap times and hopefully, continue to circulate respectfully but quickly.
Yeah, and hopefully we see all of these guys and girls out for the next events in the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing Series. It'd be good fun to see these guys actually, circulating around some of the other circuits that we've got on the calendar. I was looking at the calendar earlier, and it's a pretty interesting calendar actually. Some very fun tracks. Some, obviously not just North American tracks, some international circuits on the calendar. And I think you can agree with me here, Tyler, with the way that the calendar actually looks. It's going to be really, really interesting to see these guys and girls, run around. We've got, obviously we've got Lime Rock Park, Okayama, the Charlotte Oval, Road Atlanta, again, my personal favourite track in North America. Alton Park, which is going to be absolutely brilliant to see these drivers race around. The Roval at Charlotte, and then ending off at Sebring. That's going to be a very good event indeed.
Absolutely. I love Lime Rock. I've been there a few times for some historic races. It's just a beautiful track as we see Dustin Wayman have another little spin there. I think similar to what we've seen Bykov do a couple of times. But yeah, Lime Rock, fantastic track. Great in open wheel cars. Both Presley and McKendry are losing the rear there. I think these cars are just going to be a bundle of fun around Old Park. What a fantastic circuit, and a lot of these, fast, flowy tracks that are super suited to these perhaps not the quickest open wheel cars on iRacing, certainly not the quickest open wheel cars on iRacing, but a ton of fun to just throw around circuits that have a good rhythm, like Laguna Seca, like Olden Park, Lime Rock, Road Atlanta. Who doesn't love Road Atlanta, right?
Yeah, who doesn't love Road Atlanta, especially if you're a sports car driver. Meanwhile, a big fight between Presley and McKendry. McKendry to the outside. Presley holding it on the inside, though. Very impressive on the brakes. Meanwhile, McKendry is going to get the run out of the corner. Oh, contact between the two.
Just a scrape there.
I think Presley. There's contact. Big contact.
Oh, perhaps not the wisest decision by Presley, but he was putting up a good fight.
Presley wouldn't be out of place in a sports car racing film with driving like that. Beautiful. I think that was actually McKendry moving across. And Presley looked to the outside.
Oh goodness, yeah, you're right. I thought Presley had tried to hold his own along the outside, but he actually got behind him. Yeah, McKendry, it looked like hit the apex curb at the kink there, and unfortunately for Presley, he was doing such a good job in holding so close onto McKendry that he had nowhere to go when he bounced back across the track. But it was a good defensive maneuver from Presley to guard the inside, but I think McKendry, some smart racing there, got the over-under done and lined up Presley for the entrance to the kink. And we jump now to Lopez, who's got Baikov in there. Oh no, I'm sorry, I was looking in front of him. That was the lap car. There's Baikov in 6th place. Still going strong after a couple of spins. Still holding on to a top 6. Davis circulating in 7th. He's managed to maintain his gap over Cortez. I don't know if Cortez ended up having a little bit further damage from that incident we saw, but he's cruising around in 8th place. He's got a bit of clear track in front and behind him. It's Tyler Green in 9th place. I was going to say I think we saw Tyler Green have a moment, but I think we've seen just about everyone besides Kenny Schmid have a moment at one point or another, because this is Laguna Seca after all, and if you don't have a moment, I think you weren't really pushing. But it's there's Elizabeth Holubar. We missed John Schneebly and Dustin Wayman in there. Oh, that's a shame for Elizabeth. She's been trying her hardest, but sometimes you just make a little mistake, and as we've said a few times, this track is not forgiving.
This track definitely builds some character, and I think until you've driven this track, you haven't really driven a track that demands so much of you. No matter what car you're in, I think even if you're driving something like the Mazdas, you know, the MX-5 Cup cars, which you literally start out with on the service, this track, it's separate. It teaches you things. This track will teach you a lot about driving, you know, whatever class of car. I think I've always recommended this track to anyone that's like, oh, I need to learn this car, say, go to Laguna or go to Atlanta. You know, 2 tracks that really will test you and test how you can drive a car, because it's, again, the undulations, the way that you've got to set the car up, the way the car reacts, the way that, you know, just the nature of the circuit, especially in close quarters racing, you know, no matter what you're doing, open wheel or GT racing. It builds character. It really builds character, and you learn a lot.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Alex. It's such an unforgiving track, but those are really the best tracks to learn on. You know, whether you're learning racing in general or learning sim racing, there just is nothing that teaches you car control better than a track that doesn't forgive mistakes. And the beauty of sim racing, of course, is that if you make a mistake, you can just press the reset button and send yourself right back to the pit lane, and you've got a fresh car without having to pay any repair bills that you might in the real world. Excuse me. Now I'm struggling to speak. It's not late here. Oh dear! Just a little spin there again for I believe that was Schneebly, and Green did well to hold his medal and find his way along the outside of the corkscrew, which is not a place you want to have to be side by side with anybody, especially a car that's spun around.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, what you were saying in terms of, as Green actually had an issue at turn 1, that's what let Schneebly actually go through ahead of him, and then, you know, sort of return the favour as they made their way, you know, up to the corkscrew. Here we go, having a look on board with the 5 car, gets onto the right-hand side, hits the brakes, locks the rears up, and around she goes, holds the brake. Well, actually, doesn't even hold the brakes, but rolls the car away. It's actually similar to what Sebastian Vettel did in Formula 1 in Brazil 2012. Instead of holding the brakes, should let the car roll to let, you know, everyone else sort of know where he was going. But of course, it avoids accidents, and it's what you like to see. And again, actually, what you were saying earlier about repair bills actually sort of made me laugh and reminded me to VRS GT here a few months ago, because, you know, it's the amount of accidents I had from the lead in the Audi here. I think, you know, Team WRT would have wanted me gone and paying about £3 million just in car repair bills. McKendry having a moment at the corkscrew again. I think the most difficult corner in North America.
It's certainly up there. Absolutely. I mean, we're so fortunate to have so many really excellent racing circuits across this country, but there aren't really many corners that compare to the corkscrew at Laguna Seca. It's its own beast. And as you were saying, I think what Schneebly did there was the right decision. You know, a lot of times the universal advice is to just hold your brakes when you spin, which is generally good advice because it means you'll be predictable. But in that case, he was, oh no.
Oh.
What's happened here?
And that is Kenny Schmid. That was your leader. That was your leader, Kenny Schmid. He is stuck. What has happened here? This is interesting. I've not seen this happen before. No, what has happened to your race leader, Kenny Schmid? We're going to have a look on the replay. Makes his way up the hill towards the corkscrew. He's going to hit the brakes. Oh, he's going to have to avoid, and he just gets beached.
He
He
does.
just gets beached.
Oh, that's something that
that's something in the
you
setup.
normally see on. Well, not necessarily. I mean, these cars are I believe, running a fixed setup.
Yeah, but
for
I
this
mean, if
race
the setup,
today.
you know, if the car is naturally low
Sure.
to the ground, which it would be in the USF 2000 series,
Oh, no.
that was not the greatest rejoin either.
No, I think Dustin was trying to keep the car to the left, but just ventured a little bit out to the right as Kenny was coming.
I don't think
It's
he
tough
walked
'cause-
any.
No, and the beaching is not something that you see very often. I remember, and if you do see it, you generally see it on one of those sausage curbs rather than at the edge of the track. I remember Alexander Rossi in Mid-Ohio, I believe it was last year, trying to do his victory donuts and beaching it at the keyhole on a sausage curb there, but not something I can think that I've seen in iRacing before, not on a curve. So poor Kenny Schmid there, though. He was running just a stellar race, and now he finds himself in 9th place. I think he had to tow back to pit lane.
And what that does, though, is that puts Cadence Presley back onto the podium with less than 2 minutes to go, with less than 2 laps to go. Here
It does indeed.
Race.
And
So,
it gives Rob Hubrexy some breathing room. He's got almost 30
half a
seconds
minute,
over Jim McKendry. He can, if ever there was a time in racing where you could breathe a little easy, it's what Rob Hubrexy's got right now. But McKendry, he's also got a decent gap over Presley, who's got, in turn, a pretty decent gap over Lopez as well. I think these drivers would be wise to be smooth and perhaps a little careful here in this last couple of laps without a ton to lose. But yeah, we see Schmid exiting pit lane now. That's just unfortunate. I mean, he was having such a good race and just a product of bad luck, really. There's just not much you can do about that.
you would be forgiven for having a bit of a and that's McKendry. That's McKendry.
Oh my goodness.
What was it we were saying about keeping the car clean on the circuit for 2 minutes?
Well, if there's anything I've learned in my years of sim racing, is that there's one thing that one word that racers don't have in their vocabulary.
Cruise.
Patience. I was gonna say patience, because these guys are all here because they want to go fast, and I don't think you can blame them for that. But sometimes, what's the saying? Ambition got the better of valor there.
Discretion's
right?
the better
I
part
think
of valor.
There it is. I knew I was close. So I think McKendry would have been a little wise to rein it in just a tad, as he had another moment there exiting the corkscrew, as Hubrexy has taken the white flag and is on his way to I don't want to say an easy victory, because he had quite the effort to chase down Kenny Schmid there, and looked like had second place well in hand, but he's got a comfortable gap over Jim McKendry, especially with McKendry's additional spin there on the prior lap.
Indeed, and Lopez is actually going to finish 4th in this race as well. Great to see as well for him. Meanwhile, coming through towards the penultimate corner is Rob Hubrexy. He has had, well, as you said, not the easiest of races, had a very, very difficult race, and meanwhile McKendry's actually made a mistake, and through goes Cadence Presley II. We'll go back to the lead, because Hubrexy is going to cross the line to take victory here in the feature race, and we're going to have to go back to that second place fight, because it is very much close indeed. I think that's McKendry actually letting him back through.
Yeah, perhaps there was...
Because I was hearing over the team radio,
incident,
I got team radio on actually as well, that they were apologising to each other, or sort of that.
Oh,
McKendry actually spun it again. God, McKendry, like, caution, my friend, caution. But Cadence Presley, you've got to give it to him, the 10-year-old. McKendry looped it round again.
Oh, Jim.
Like, Lopez might get a podium out of this. He's going to get a podium out of this.
Oh, goodness.
But
I mean, you
Caden
can't fault
Presley,
Jim
you
McHenry
can't
for
fault him.
trying.
And you
I
can't
mean-
fault Caden Presley either. Second place.
And we're
Absolutely
hearing he
amazing.
had, we're hearing that McHenry had quite a bit of damage. Yeah, you can see the rear
Oh,
wing is all
yeah.
bent up. That'll certainly contribute. He was pushing, I think, as hard as he could, and with that damage a little harder than perhaps the car was able to take. Roman Bykov here coming
I'm
across
trying
the
not
line
to tear
in
up.
5th place.
I'm trying not to tear up because I'm listening to the team radio as well with Fields commentating, and all I can hear is Caden Presley just being so wholesome. It's so nice. It's, you know, he's so happy about finishing second, and it's, you know, it's those little things, you know,
I think-
that just
I
make
think there's-
racers so, you know, it makes it so enjoyable to watch. And
There's a lot to
commentate.
appreciate.
It makes our job worth doing. Is what it does.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot to appreciate about good racing, as we'll give you the rundown in just a sec. But I think the most important things in league racing like this are respect between the drivers, because it just shows that, you know, while you're competitors, you still have that appreciation for the fact that you're all out there with the same goal in mind. Rob Hubrexy is your winner of the feature race here today at the Colorado Karting Tour 2020 Kick the Rust Off Showdown. Cadence Presley in the number 1 car coming home in 2nd place, with Daniel Lopez rounding out the podium for race number 2. Jim McHenry comes home in 4th with his unfortunately significantly damaged USF 2000 vehicle. Roman Bykov gets his 2nd top 5 of the night. Jeremy Davis comes home in 6th, with Alfonso Cortez, your co-biggest mover, alongside Cadence Presley. He finishes in 7th. Kenny Schmid, just what can you say for poor Kenny Schmid?
I'm heartbroken for Kenny because
he
was
ran such a
good
phenomenal couple of races, and unfortunately the results don't show the effort he put in. But in 8th place for Kenny. Tyler Green comes home 9th. John Schneebly, despite a couple of spins, rounds out our top 10. Dustin Wayman comes home 11th. Elizabeth Holubar and George Sparks round out the field. A valiant effort, I think, from all involved, and really just good, competitive, but friendly racing out there
Agreed.
today.
Like some proper racing, some very hard racing as well at points, which is great to see from these guys and girls. And again, like, you know, especially here at Laguna Seca, as you said, a very character-building track. It's great to see that the rust has definitely been kicked off, and I think moving on into the season, we've got some very, very good racing ahead of us.
Absolutely, I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully, we can get some drivers in here
We
for
already
some
have
interviews
one.
soon. Yeah, I see we have one in our waiting area as we just get everything sorted. But just some really good action today, and just great to see the competitive spirit on show. And as I said at the start of the show, it's always nice when you can bring the real racing, the real world racing world and the virtual racing world together in any way. So really appreciate what the Colorado Karting Tour is doing here, promoting virtual racing and promoting real racing as well.
Yeah, indeed. And I think, who should we bring in first, Tyler? Because there's plenty of people here that we could bring in. Plenty of people that want to talk to us today.
I would love to talk to race number 1 winner Kenny Schmid, if we can pull him in here.
I can drag him in here. And here he is indeed, Kenny Schmid, our race 1 winner, and I'm going to say the honourable race 2 winner, even though a shame that what happened, but Kenny, you had such an amazing, you know, couple of races. I'm heartbroken for you for race 2 because of how it ended, but again, the pace you showed today was absolutely stellar.
Well, thank you. You know, I mean, and you know, hey, that's just racing. Sometimes that sort of thing happens. I'm glad it happened this week during a non-points race rather than next week when it's a points race. And so, you know, it's kind of a shame, especially like getting beached like that and having to tow. Was I don't think that's ever happened to me before in iRacing. But yeah, great, you know, great qualifying, great first race, and was on pace there to bring home the win in the second race until I kind of got beached there like a whale. But you know, what can you do? That's racing sometimes.
So Kenny, what sort of iRacing have you done before? We've got a little bit of a bio from your real world racing as well. GTO class, W2W racing. I see you've run the Porsche GT4 Club Sport as well, but have you been on iRacing long?
I think I joined iRacing in 2018 or 2017. And immediately, was drawn to the open wheel cars. So I spent a lot of time in the Formula 3 for a while. But a lot, recently, I've been doing a lot more sports car racing, both on iRacing and in real life. So I made the switch there to IMSA and pilot. And that's kind of where I spend my time these days, is kind of endurance racing, both in real life and on iRacing.
Oh, a man of culture, I see. Good old sports car racing. And of course, actually, that's a good question. Actually, a good point as well. You say you've done a lot more sports car racing as well in real life, as well as on the sim. You come to a track like Laguna Seca, and as me and Tyler said, it's a very character-building track. A track that, you can build car control at. How much of that would you agree with, especially, in the transfer from like open wheel and GT racing?
I'd agree with 100% of it. I actually had my first racing school at Laguna Seca. I've driven the track in real life, and it is every bit as fun as it is in the sim. If anything, it's crazier. I mean, the things that corkscrew does to your stomach when you actually drive through it. And I had the pleasure of driving a Formula Renault 1600 is the car that we had in racing school around Laguna Seca, and it's challenging. There's just so much elevation. Some turns are cambered, a lot of them kind of are flat. Like turn 3 and turn 4 are just straight flat. But then 5 is real cambered, and 10 is real cambered, and you can just dip in there and carry a lot more speed than you think. So it's a track that's got everything for everybody, as far as I'm concerned. One of the best tracks in North America, and if not the world.
Excellent, Kenny. Really appreciate it. Do you have anyone to thank before we let you go here?
Yeah, just mainly the Colorado Karting Tour and all the guys on the Colorado Karting Tour, the board of the tour, for putting together a great racing season this year, given everything that's going on with COVID. The board and the Colorado Karting Tour came together and was able to hold, I think, like 6 races or something like that, which was absolutely fantastic, given how things looked at the beginning of the year. And of course, now coming together after our real season is over to do the winter series here on iRacing. So big thank you to the Colorado Karting Tour and to Point Karting for sponsoring the Colorado Karting Tour and to help us put these broadcasts on, and to you guys, Apex Racing. I can't wait to watch the stream later.
Excellent, Kenny. Thank you so much. Congratulations on your race 1 win. Sorry it didn't work out in race 2, but you really put on a show there today.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's see if we can bring race 2 winner Rob Hubrexy in. Rob, you there?
I am here.
Hey!
Rob, I would really appreciate it if you could tell me how to pronounce your last name.
Yeah, that's a good question.
You knew this was coming.
Yeah, I did. No, it's actually pretty easy to pronounce. It's Hubrex.
Oh my God,
we were way off.
We've got well off.
I'm so sorry, Rob.
Oh God, you're gonna hate watching this back. Then you're gonna literally be sat there going, "How the hell did they get that wrong?"
Sorry about that, Rob. But
oh, no worries.
Got to congratulate you on a fantastic night, a second in race 1, and a win in race number 2. What was your secret out there today?
Thank you very much. I mean, I'm not sure what exactly happened there with Kenny. I hate to see him kind of lose the race like that at the end there, but sometimes in racing you just got to be in the right place at the right time. He definitely had better pace than I did through most of the race. I'd gain a couple tenths on him, and then I'd lose 5 tenths on him. And the thing is, I think with these cars, the tire dag, I'm not used to running a race this long, so the tires really went off towards the end there, and I really started to lose ground to them. But one man's misfortune is another man's fortune, I guess, because I saw him sitting at the top of the corkscrew there, and I was like, oh man, I guess I'm gonna win this now, but that sucks for him.
Well, you didn't think to give him a little nudge or a little push and help him get back on his way?
If he had stayed up there another lap, maybe I would have.
Oh, come on.
You had a pretty decent gap there at the end. You had a great battle for the podium, or for second place rather, in race number 1 with Jim McKendry. Did you have as much fun fighting that as we had watching it?
Oh yeah, that was that was a lot of fun. Jim's a good buddy of mine. I knew I could trust him. Same with Kenny. Same with a lot of these guys at the front. I know them in real life. I've raced them in iRacing. Knew that I could trust him, but yeah, that was great fun battling with him there.
Excellent, Rob. Thank you so much. Do you have anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Colorado Karting Tour for putting this together. Thank you to Point Karting. I guess they're my sponsor because I'm running their livery this weekend. Doing a pretty good investment here in sim racing. I think that Point Karting realizes the coming of the digital age and how it relates to racing. So they're doing a great job with sponsoring this series. And yeah, just got to thank them. Thank you to everyone at Colorado Karting Tour who helped put this together. And I'm excited for this winter season.
Awesome, Rob. Thank you so much. Congratulations on your race 2 win, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
We have time, Tyler, for one more interviewee. I'm thinking of bringing Mr. McKendry in here.
We can. I believe... yeah, why don't we grab Jim McKendry and give him a chat.
See?
Jim
Jim, are
McKendry?
you there, my good man?
Hello.
Ah, Jim. Jim, Mr. McKendry, where do we start? Because, well, I'd assume the first race would be a good place to start because you had an amazing first race out there today at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in these USF 2000 cars. And we'll try and not talk about race 2 too much because we all know the story of what happened there. But race 1, you were flying out there and you had some really, really good racing when you got going.
Thank you. Yeah, I did struggle a little bit on the second race. I think I was running decent times, but collected a little bit of damage in the back of the car, and that just made me spin over and over again. So I think I did as good as I could have, considering.
Yeah, Jim, we saw your battle with Cadence Presley there in race number 2. You had a pretty decent battle with him. We saw you battling with Rob in race number 1. In fact, you were probably the driver we saw in battles most of the race. Yeah. A lot of people, kind of the field spread out a little bit, but you seem to always find yourself fighting with somebody. So, what was your secret tactic out there? We saw a great over/under move on Cadence in race number 2 there, up into the kink leading into the corkscrew. That was a pretty sweet move.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm just trying to take some of the racecraft I have, I've gathered up over the years in real life, and trying to translate it over onto the sim. This was one of my first races actually was my first race with this car on iRacing. So I usually do the sports cars.
Gotcha. Have you been on iRacing for a long time, Jim, or are you a relatively new convert?
I think I'm getting close to like a year and 7 months or so. So.
Gotcha. Just mostly on the sports car side of things, then.
Yep. That's what I do in real life. So that's what I tend to get.
Another amount of culture.
And I too. So.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't be too complimentary towards sports cars in a broadcast presented by a karting group, Alex. But no, I think we
come up through karting as well.
Fair enough. I think everybody in here appreciates pretty much every form of racing. I know we all love some karting and some open wheel stuff as well. So, Jim, anybody you'd like to thank before we send you off for the night?
Yeah, I'm going to thank Eric at Point Karting for sponsoring this. This is awesome. Eric actually helps my son in go-kart racing with Colorado Karting Tour quite a bit. And Rob for inviting me over to this series. Thanks, guys. And thank you guys for streaming this.
Absolutely, Jim. Thank you so much. Congratulations on your podium in race number 1, and hopefully we'll see you next time. All right, I believe, unfortunately, that's all the interviews we have time for tonight. I see we have some people still waiting, but hopefully we will be able to talk to everyone later on down the road. But that'll close it out for our broadcast tonight. Another big thank you to the Colorado Karting Tour for putting this on. I think we saw some pretty excellent racing tonight. I just wanted to reiterate once again the couple of messages that the Colorado Karting Tour would like us to highlight. They wanted to thank you for watching this broadcast. They're looking forward to a great season of racing. The series is currently free to race for CKT members, and in order to keep the race entry free while providing the fantastic hosted sessions, awards, and broadcasts, they're looking for sponsors. If you would like to sponsor CKT iRacing League, please reach out at KoloradoKartingTour.com/contact for full details. And in addition, the Colorado Karting Tour is looking for race day track workers. Positions currently open are corner, timing and scoring, as well as flag workers. Workers will be paid for their time and travel to each event. Please contact CKT for more details. Again, that contact information is KoloradoKartingTour.com/contact. Alex, do you have any closing thoughts before we sign off for the night? I think we saw some pretty excellent racing out there and some pretty talented drivers.
All I'm going to say is I can't bring on the season. Bring it on. I can't wait for this.
Absolutely. I think we're in for a pretty awesome season of racing here. From us here at Apex Racing TV, myself, Alex, Marco on the cameras, and everybody at Colorado Karting Tour, thank you for watching the 2020 Kick the Rust Off special event here, and we hope to see you next time.
Racing, there's nothing like it, man. It's an adrenaline rush. It's a feeling that of relief. You can be stressed out all day, go to the track, relieve a bunch of stress, just banging gears, hearing the motor revs. Just there's nothing like it, man.
I'm racing because it's my dream to be a professional race car driver, and I was just born with a car spirit.
The feeling I get when I'm around the people that enjoy this is what brings me back.
There's nothing like being at the front of a big pack, going into turn one.
I really like the variety of tracks. I think that's the thing that I like the most about Colorado Karting Tour, and also the variety of classes we can race, and just the competitiveness.
Whether you're a mechanic for your child or a racer yourself, you guys are what drive this. And so when we get to see people have success or suffer through failure but come back better, that means a lot.
I love racing so much just because it's just so competitive and you get such an adrenaline rush from racing with others.
So what draws me to racing is however your life is going, whatever problems you're having, work, relationships, when you're at the track, it demands your focus. In a healthy competition, there's no other sport that I've participated in that demands that amount of focus where you're free to just drive.
We have 5 tracks. A lot of places have one track and they just run it forwards or backwards, whereas we go all over the place. So it's like a little F1 season. Not everywhere has that.
a great 2019 season. Stay safe and let's go racing.
Well said.